Kai opened his eyes and immediately felt that something was wrong. The air smelled strange, sharp and sweet at the same time, unlike anything he had known on Earth. The sky above him glowed with colors he could not name. Hues of green, orange, and violet swirled together, casting strange shadows over the jagged mountains that surrounded him. He tried to remember how he had arrived here, but his mind was blank. Only a faint hum came from a small device in his pocket. Pulsing like a heartbeat, Kai pushed himself up, his legs trembling from weakness and fear. He had no weapons, no food, and no map. The ground beneath him was uneven, covered with black stones that made every step uncertain. Small, flickering shapes moved in the distance, barely visible against the colorful horizon. He squinted and saw creatures unlike anything on Earth. Their skin shimmered, and their eyes reflected the strange light above. They were watching him for a moment. Kai froze. His heart raced, and he realized that his survival depended on his next actions. He remembered lessons from his training back home. Stay calm, observe, and think. He took a slow step forward, then another. The creatures did not attack, but they did not leave either. Fear coiled in his chest like a living thing. He felt tiny, fragile, and alone. Yet, a part of him, human instinct, refused to give in. Kai moved toward a small hill that offered a better view. From there, he could see a valley filled with strange plants. Some had thick, glowing leaves, while others seemed to float slightly above the ground. He touched one of the floating plants, feeling a gentle vibration through his fingers. It was beautiful, but it was not food. He needed water and shelter first thought. As he explored, Kai noticed footprints in the dark soil. They were large and round, with small ridges along the edges. He followed them carefully, staying low to avoid being seen. The footprints led to a cluster of rocks that could provide temporary shelter. He crawled behind them, his eyes scanning the horizon. The sun, or what he guessed was the sun, was setting. The colors of the sky deepened, making the landscape even more alien. Shadows stretched across the valley, and the shapes of creatures became harder to distinguish. Kai's pulse quickened as he realized the night might bring dangers he could not yet imagine. He thought of Earth, of home, of people he had known. A pang of loneliness struck him, and for the first time, he allowed himself to feel fear openly. He pressed his back against the rocks and tried to steady his breathing. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt different here. Every sound seemed amplified. A rustle of leaves, the snap of a stone, even the hum of his device in his pocket, sounded like a roar. Kai listened carefully, learning the rhythm of this new world. He realized that understanding the environment was as important as physical strength. Then, movement caught his eye. A small creature emerged from the shadows. It was no bigger than a dog, but it had 4 legs that bent strangely and eyes that glowed like fireflies. It stopped a few meters from him and tilted its head. Kai stayed still. He could feel the creature studying him. He held his breath. After what felt like an eternity, the creature turned and disappeared into the darkness. Relief washed over him. But it was short-lived. He knew this planet had many secrets, and not all of them were small creatures. He needed a plan. Kai searched the rocks and found a shallow depression where he could collect rainwater. He gathered a few leaves to filter the water, careful not to waste a drop. Survival, he realized, was not about bravery alone. It was about patience, observation, and action. As night fell completely, the sky turned darker, and strange lights moved across the horizon. Kai lay down behind the rocks, hugging his knees. Fear was still there, but so was determination. He thought of the device in his pocket, a small reminder that he might not be entirely alone. Somewhere, somehow, help might exist. Kai closed his eyes for a short while, not to sleep, but to rest his mind. When he opened them again, he felt a small spark of hope. He might be alone in this alien world, but he was human. And humans had a way of surviving against impossible odds. He took a deep breath and prepared himself for the next day, knowing it would bring more challenges. This was only the beginning, and the first tiers of survival were yet to come. The next morning, Kai woke to a strange, soft light filtering through the jagged rocks around him. The air smelled fresher, but it carried a hint of danger. He rubbed his eyes and looked around. The small creature from last night was nowhere in sight. Kai knew he could not stay hidden forever. He needed to move, explore, and understand this world before it discovered him in ways he could not fight. Kai climbed to the top of the hill. From there, he could see more clearly the valley below. Trees with wide, luminous leaves stretched toward the sky. Strange vines hung from the cliffs like curtains. Some plants pulsed gently, as if they had a heartbeat. He stepped carefully, mindful of each sound. The ground was uneven, and the slightest noise could alert something larger, something stronger than him. As he walked, he noticed the faint tracks of larger creatures in the soft soil. They were clawed, with deep indentations that made him imagine the size of the beings that left them. Fear pressed against his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. Kai knew panic could be deadly. He studied the tracks, memorizing their patterns. It was a game of patience and observation. Humans had a unique ability to think quickly and adapt, and he would need that skill to survive. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from the tall grass nearby. Kai froze. He crouched low and waited. A small predator emerged. It was larger than the creature he had seen yesterday, with long, sharp limbs and eyes that glowed like coals. It sniffed the air, then moved toward him. Kai's heart raced. He had nothing to defend himself, but he remembered the lessons he had learned. Think, observe, and use the environment. He picked up a few stones and quietly arranged them behind a thick bush. As the predator came closer, Kai threw a stone to the left. The creature snapped its head in that direction, distracted for just a moment. Kai seized the chance. He ran toward a cluster of rocks, keeping low and moving as silently as he could. The predator followed, but Kai noticed that its attention could be divided. He led it in a zigzag pattern, confusing it with unexpected movements. Finally, Kai ducked behind a large boulder. The predator stopped, snarled, and then turned away, disappearing into the shadows. Kai's chest heaved with exhaustion. Fear had run through him like fire, but he also felt a strange pride. He had survived the first real test. Survival, he realized, was not about strength alone. It was about thinking, adapting, and acting quickly. Kai took a moment to catch his breath. His body ached, but he knew he could not rest long. Food and water were his next priorities. He moved carefully through the valley, observing the plants around him. Some leaves seemed soft and juicy, while others had spines. He tested a few small plants, noting which were safe to eat. His instincts guided him, and his careful observation kept him from making mistakes. While searching for water, Kai heard a low humming sound. It was different from the device in his pocket. Curious, he followed it. Through a narrow passage between two cliffs, he found a small stream of clear water flowing gently over smooth stones. Relief flooded him. He drank slowly, savoring each drop. Survival depended on small victories like this, he realized. Finding food, finding water, avoiding predators, these were the first steps in staying alive. Kai did not notice the eyes watching him from above. A larger creature, silent and patient, crouched on a cliff edge. Its body blended with the rocks, and its gaze never left him. Kai was unaware, but instinct would tell him soon. Survival was a constant balance between fear and action. Every step could bring danger. Every choice mattered. As the sun climbed higher, Kai explored further. He found a small cave that could offer temporary shelter. He examined it carefully, looking for signs of other creatures. The cave was empty, safe for now. He gathered a few stones to block the entrance partially and used some large leaves for bedding. It was not much, but it was enough for rest. Humans could make use of almost anything, and Kai felt that resourcefulness was one of his greatest strengths. Kai sat at the entrance of the cave and watched the strange world outside. He noticed patterns in the movement of creatures and the sway of the plants. The planet had rules, he realized, and if he could learn them, he could survive. Fear still lingered, sharp and cold, but it was now mixed with determination. Humans had a way of facing the unknown, of turning fear into action. He promised himself that he would not give in, no matter what came next. As night approached, the sky filled with unfamiliar stars. Kai could hear distant calls of creatures he could not see. The first night had been survived, and the second day brought new lessons. Fear had returned, but it was tempered with understanding. Humans could endure, adapt, and overcome. Kai knew he had to stay alert, but he also knew that each challenge made him stronger. The first tears of survival were still close, but hope had begun to grow. Kai lay down behind the leaves, listening to the sounds of the alien world. He closed his eyes for a short rest, but his mind stayed alert. Tomorrow would bring more dangers, but it would also bring more opportunities. Humans had a way of turning fear into courage, and Kai would need all of that courage to survive this planet. The morning light stretched over the jagged mountains, casting long shadows across the valley. Kai awoke feeling the ache in his muscles from the previous day. The small cave had protected him, but he knew he could not stay hidden forever. He needed to explore, find food, and most importantly, understand this strange planet. As he stepped out, he noticed movement near a cluster of glowing plants. At first, he thought it was another predator. His heart raced and he crouched low behind a rock. Then he saw it, a small alien creature, but unlike the predators he had encountered. Its skin was soft and pale, and its eyes held intelligence. The creature appeared injured. It limped slightly, holding one of its thin legs at an odd angle. Kai's first instinct was caution. He remembered the predators from yesterday, the danger that lurked in every shadow. Yet something about this creature made him hesitate. It did not growl or hiss. It watched him with fear, but also with trust. Kai slowly extended his hand, keeping his movements gentle and calm. The creature took a hesitant step toward him. Kai whispered quietly, as if the sound of his voice could calm it. The alien approached, and he saw that its leg was badly wounded. A small piece of glowing bark had pierced its skin. Kai knelt carefully and removed the bark. The creature flinched, but did not move away. He tore a strip of cloth from his shirt and wrapped the wound as best as he could. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Kai realized that humans had a gift that few other species did: empathy. The ability to feel for another being, too. Act on that feeling could create trust even across worlds. The creature blinked slowly and then made a soft, humming sound. Kai smiled. It was the first connection he had made on this alien planet. He decided to name the creature Varo. Varo seemed to understand the name. It followed Kai as he explored the area, limping but determined to keep pace. Together, they moved through the valley, careful to avoid the larger predators that prowled unseen. Kai noticed that Varo knew some things about the terrain. It led into a patch of water hidden beneath a canopy of floating plants. The water was clean and cool, a rare find on this planet. Kai drank first, then offered water to Varo, using a piece of bark as a cup. Varo drank slowly, eyes never leaving him. It was strange to think that they were learning from each other, humans, and aliens sharing knowledge without words. Kai began observing Varo's behavior. He noticed how it avoided certain plants, how it moved quietly over rough ground, and how it used sounds to communicate with distant creatures. The day passed slowly. Kai taught Vero some simple signals, pointing to objects and making gestures. Vero mimicked him carefully, and a basic understanding began to grow. The first moments of survival were lonely and frightening, but with Vero, Kai felt that he could face the dangers ahead. Two beings working together had a better chance of surviving than one alone. In the late afternoon, dark clouds gathered above the valley. The wind picked up, carrying a sharp, acidic smell. Kai realized that the weather could be just as dangerous as the creatures. He motioned for Vero to follow him to a sheltered area beneath a cluster of rocks. They crouched close, together as the first drops fell. The rain hissed as it touched the glowing plants, sending up tiny clouds of mist. Kai held Vero close to shield it from the worst of the storm. He realized that survival was not just about avoiding predators or finding food. It was about protecting those who depended on you. Vero pressed its small body against him, trembling slightly. Kai whispered encouragement, feeling a connection he had never known before. He understood that humans had strength not only in their bodies, but in their hearts. When the storm passed, the valley was transformed. Leaves were bent, small streams had formed, and distant cliffs glimmered with water. Kai and Vero emerged from their shelter, cautious but alive. They had survived the first real test together. Kai knew that the planet was full of dangers, some visible, some hidden. But he also knew that fear could be met with action. Humans could think, adapt, and protect. That was a power no predator could match. As the sun began to set, Kai and Vero settled near a small glowing plant that offered shade and a sense of safety. Kai shared some of the edible plants he had found, and Vero ate carefully. The bond between them grew stronger. For the first time, Kai felt that survival was not just about avoiding death. It was about finding hope, forming connections, and using intelligence to face the unknown. Kai looked out over the valley as the sky darkened. He thought about the creatures, the storms, and the strange beauty of the planet. Fear was still present, but it no longer controlled him. Humans had a gift that other species did not. They could face fear and turn it into strength. With Vero by his side, Kai knew they could face the dangers ahead together. Night fell, and the stars shone brighter than he had ever seen. Kai and Vero rested, ready for the challenges of the next day. Survival was no longer a lonely struggle. It was a journey, a test of courage, intelligence, and heart. The first bond had been formed, and with it came hope. Humans could survive even in the most alien worlds. The next morning, Kai awoke to the strange greenish light that bathed the valley. Vero was already awake, stretching its thin legs carefully. Kai watched it for a moment, noticing how alert it was. Vero moved quietly, scanning the area as if it understood that danger could appear at any time. Kai realized that he needed to learn from Vero's instincts. Humans had intelligence, but instincts and observation were just as important in this alien world. Kai and Vero began their day by exploring further into the valley. Kai noticed that certain plants bent slightly as they passed, as if responding to their presence. Some leaves hid small insects that glowed softly. Kai collected a few, noting that they might provide nutrition. He also marked his path using small stones, making sure he could find his way back to the cave. He had learned that survival required not only courage but planning. As they moved, Vero paused suddenly. Its ears twitched and emitted a low, vibrating sound. Kai froze, scanning the area. From the shadows, a predator emerged. It was larger than any Kai had seen, with dark scales and limbs built for speed. Its eyes glowed like molten metal. Kai knew that running blindly could be fatal. He studied the terrain, looking for ways to use it to his advantage. he remembered the lessons from the previous day. Observation, patience, and clever action could save him. Kai led the predator toward a narrow passage between two cliffs. The predator followed, but its size made it struggle to move quickly in the tight space. Kai picked up small stones and threw them to create noise, distracting it. Pharaoh joined him, making small humming sounds that echoed off the walls, confusing the predator further. The creature roared in frustration and eventually retreated, leaving Kai and Pharaoh unharmed. Kai took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline leave his body. He realized that humans had a unique advantage. While many creatures relied on strength or speed, humans could think, adapt, and plan. That advantage allowed them to survive where others might fail. He felt a sense of pride, but also a new awareness. Every challenge on this planet would be dangerous, and he had to remain alert at all times. After the encounter, Kai and Pharaoh continued exploring. They came across a small clearing filled with unusual plants that glowed faintly. Some of the plants seemed to react to movement, closing their leaves when Kai approached. He experimented, moving slowly and observing carefully. He discovered that some plants could provide food, while others could be used for shelter or protection. Every discovery increased his confidence. Humans were capable of understanding and using their environment in ways other species could not. As the day progressed, Kai noticed that the weather was changing. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, and the wind began to howl through the valley. He knew from experience that storms on this planet could be dangerous. The air smelled sharp and metallic, and small flashes of light danced along the clouds. Kai motioned to Pharaoh, and they hurried toward a rocky overhang that could serve as shelter. The storm arrived quickly, bringing heavy rain that hissed as it hit the glowing plants. The wind threatened to knock them off balance. Kai used his strength to shield Pharaoh from the worst of it, holding it close against his chest. He realized that humans had another advantage, the ability to protect and care for others. Pharaoh pressed against him, trusting him completely. It was a bond that could mean the difference between life and death on this planet. When the storm passed, the valley was transformed. Pools of water reflected the strange sky, and some plants had been damaged by the wind. Kai and Pharaoh emerged cautiously, scanning their surroundings. They discovered that some plants had fallen, revealing hidden paths and small creatures that had been trapped beneath leaves. Kai helped Pharaoh navigate carefully through the wet terrain. Every moment required thought, observation, and action. As night approached, Kai and Pharaoh settled near a glowing plant that provided light and partial shelter. Kai reflected on what they had learned. The planet was harsh and unpredictable, but it had rules. Patterns in the movement of creatures, the behavior of plants, and the changes in weather could all be understood. Humans had the ability to observe, learn, and adapt faster than any other species he had encountered. Kai looked at Pharaoh and smiled. Fear was still present, but it no longer dominated him. Humans had a way of facing the unknown with courage, intelligence, and empathy. Pharaoh had shown him that understanding another being could create alliances, even in the most dangerous situations. Together, they had survived predators, discovered food, and endured the first real storm. The stars appeared in the sky, brighter than Kai had ever seen. He felt a sense of wonder and determination. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, larger and more dangerous than today. But Kai knew that humans could face them. Survival depended on more than strength or speed. It required mind, heart, and spirit. He rested beside Pharaoh, ready to face the next day with courage, intelligence, and hope. The morning air was heavy with mist, and the valley looked different under the soft light. Kai stretched his stiff muscles and glanced at Pharaoh. The alien creature's eyes reflected alertness and caution. Both of them knew that today could bring danger. Kai had learned that fear was not weakness. It was a warning, a signal to be ready. Humans could use fear to sharpen their senses. And today, that skill would be tested as they moved through the valley. Kai noticed large footprints pressed into the soft soil. They were massive, far bigger than the predators he had seen before. He crouched and examined them closely. The marks suggested sharp claws and incredible strength. Kai realized that something larger, faster, and smarter than anything he had faced was nearby. His heart raced, but he kept his breathing steady. Fear was present, but his mind focused on strategy. Humans had a unique gift, the ability to think. In danger when others relied only on instinct, Kai led Vero along a rocky path, using the terrain to their advantage. They kept low, moving slowly, listening to every sound. A distant roar echoed through the valley, shaking the ground slightly. Vero pressed closer to Kai, and he placed a comforting hand on its back. The creature trusted him completely. That bond was as important as any weapon could be. Together, they would face what was coming. Suddenly, the massive predator appeared. Its body was covered in dark, thick scales that shimmered in the light. Eyes like glowing coals scanned the valley, locking onto Kai and Vero. Its roar was deafening, echoing off the cliffs. Kai's heart pounded, but he remembered everything he had learned. Strength alone would not win this fight. He had to be clever, use his environment, and think faster than the predator. He scanned the area and spotted a narrow ravine filled with jagged rocks. Kai led the predator toward it, using quick, unpredictable movements. Vero helped by making soft, echoing sounds that confused the creature's senses. The predator snarled, swinging its massive claws, but the rocks slowed it down. Kai's plan was simple. Use obstacles to tire the creature and create an opening for escape. As they ran, Kai noticed that the predator had a pattern. Its attacks were strong but predictable if observed carefully. Kai used the rocks to dodge, throwing small stones to distract it further. Vero mimicked sounds from other parts of the valley, tricking the predator into turning in the wrong direction. Kai realized that humans could combine intelligence, observation, and creativity to survive challenges that seemed impossible. The predator lunged, but Kai jumped to the side just in time. He led it toward a patch of thorny plants, sharp and dangerous. The creature roared in pain as it stepped into them, giving Kai and Vero a chance to escape. They ran toward a cluster of large boulders, finding temporary shelter behind them. Kai's chest heaved, and Vero's body trembled. But both were alive. Kai realized the battle was not over. The predator was still out there, and it could strike again at any moment. Survival meant staying alert and always thinking ahead. He looked at Vero and understood that humans had another strength, the ability to protect others. Vero depended on him, and he depended on Vero. Together, they had a better chance than either would alone. As the sun climbed higher, Kai used the time to examine the terrain. He spotted natural traps, ledges, and escape routes. He began planning a path through the valley that could minimize danger and maximize safety. Humans had an ability that predators could not match: foresight. Every step, every decision, could be calculated to increase the chance of survival. By afternoon, the valley was quiet. The predator had retreated for now, probably seeking easier prey. Kai and Vero moved cautiously, keeping low and silent. Kai gathered some edible plants and water, preparing for the next challenge. He knew the planet was filled with dangers, but he also knew humans had something unique: the ability to face fear and turn it into action. As night approached, Kai and Vero found a sheltered spot under a rocky overhang. Kai inspected the area for weaknesses, making sure they would not be surprised. He shared the food with Vero, who ate cautiously but trustingly. Kai felt a deep sense of pride. They had faced a creature stronger and larger than anything humans might encounter on Earth, and they had survived. It was proof of human courage, intelligence, and resilience. Kai looked at the valley, now bathed in the soft glow of strange stars. Fear was still present, but it was different now. It was not paralyzing. It was a tool, a guide. Humans could use fear to focus, to plan, and to act. With Vera by his side, Kai knew they could face whatever challenges this world would bring. Survival was no longer about escaping danger. It was about learning, adapting, and using every skill humans possessed. Kai lay down for rest, with Vera close by. He felt a quiet satisfaction. The first real confrontation had passed, and they had survived. Humans were capable of facing creatures far stronger than themselves because of their courage, intelligence, and determination. The first tears of survival had been shed, but they were no longer tears of fear. They were tears of relief and hope. The dawn of courage had arrived, and Kai knew the hardest challenges were still ahead. The next morning, Kai awoke with a sense of purpose. The valley was quiet, and the morning light made the strange plants glow softly. Varro stirred beside him, eyes alert. Kai knew that today they would explore farther than ever before. The events of the last days had taught him that survival depended on observation, courage, and intelligence. Humans had a gift for learning quickly, and he intended to use it. They moved through a narrow passage that led to a hidden valley. Kai noticed that the ground was covered in strange symbols carved into rocks and stones. Some were geometric, others more complex, like patterns of light frozen in stone. He bent down to study them. He did not understand their meaning yet, but he realized that they must have been made by intelligent beings. This planet had not always been wild and untamed. Kai felt a spark of curiosity. Varro led him carefully through the valley. Its instincts were sharp, guiding them past unstable rocks and areas where predators might be hiding. Kai followed, trusting Varro's knowledge of the land. The small creature had become his guide, teacher, and companion. Humans had the ability to form alliances, even with beings of another species, and this bond could save their lives. Soon, they reached a clearing, filled with structures. They were unlike anything Kai had seen before. Towers of smooth, dark stone rose into the sky, connected by arches and bridges. Some structures had broken edges, as if time had worn them down. Others glowed faintly, pulsing with an energy Kai could feel but not yet understand. He realized they had discovered the remnants of an ancient civilization. Humans were capable of recognizing patterns and using them. Even without understanding everything at first, Kai explored cautiously, stepping inside one of the larger buildings. The walls were covered with inscriptions, and strange devices stood. In corners, one small floating orb hovered silently, rotating slowly. Kai reached out to touch it. The moment his fingers brushed its surface, it lit up and emitted a soft hum. The light expanded, revealing a map-like projection in the air. Kai's eyes widened. He realized that this device could show paths, locations, and maybe even ways to survive better on the planet. Vera watched him closely, tilting its head in astonishment. Curiosity. Kai understood that humans had the ability to experiment, to learn through touch and observation. He began testing other devices, discovering that many responded to gestures or pressure. Some could emit light or warmth, others moved silently across the floor when activated. Humans had creativity and problem-solving skills that allowed them to unlock the secrets of the world around them. Kai paused to think. The planet had dangers, but it also had tools left behind by a civilization that had been far more advanced than he could imagine. If humans could learn to use them, they could survive and thrive. He realized that this was more than survival. It was discovery, the human drive to explore and understand. He felt a sense of hope stronger than anything he had felt since waking. On this world, suddenly, a faint vibration ran through the ground. Kai stiffened. He knew that other creatures were still out there, watching and waiting. The planet had rules, and part of survival was knowing when to act and when to observe. He guided Vero toward a safer area inside the structure, using shadows and walls for cover. Humans had the ability to plan, to foresee danger, and to adapt strategies quickly. That ability gave them an edge no other creature could match. As they explored further, Kai discovered a chamber filled with glowing orbs. One in particular responded to his touch, opening a small hatch that revealed supplies. There were containers with water, small rations of food, and devices that could help them navigate or protect themselves. Kai realized that the civilization had built tools for survival, and humans could use them even after centuries of neglect. Intelligence, curiosity, and adaptability made them capable of using knowledge left behind by others. Kai and Vero spent hours studying the technology. Vero imitated some of his gestures, learning to activate simple devices. Together, they experimented and discovered new ways to move safely through the valley. The planet still held dangers, but humans had a unique ability: the combination of courage, observation, and ingenuity. Every discovery increased their chances of survival and gave them confidence. As the sun began to set, Kai looked out over the valley filled with ancient structures. The first days had been full of fear, but now he felt hope. Humans were able to face the unknown, learn from it, and turn it into strength. The first tears of survival had given way to determination. With Vero at his side, Kai knew they could face whatever challenges this world would bring. The ancient civilization had left behind tools, patterns, and lessons, and humans had the ability to use them. Kai rested near one of the glowing structures, Vero close by. He thought about the days ahead and the unknown dangers that still waited. Fear was still there, but it was no longer paralyzing. It was a guide, a warning, and a challenge. Humans could face fear, adapt, and overcome. That was what made them special. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but with intelligence, courage, and the bond with Vero, Kai knew they had hope. The valley was quiet as the first light of dawn painted the sky in shades of green and gold. Kai stretched and looked at Vero, who had already risen. The days they had survived together had changed both of them. Fear was still there, but it no longer ruled them. They had learned, adapted, and grown stronger. Humans had a unique ability to face fear, to understand it, and to turn it into courage. Today, that courage would be tested again. Kai had noticed the movement of a massive predator from a distance. Its presence was deliberate, calculated. It was larger than any creature they had faced, with thick, dark scales and eyes that glowed like fire. The ground trembled slightly with each step it took. Kai knew that running would not be enough this time. Survival required strategy, teamwork, and intelligence. Humans had the ability to combine all three in ways that no predator could match. He looked at Vero, who tilted its head, understanding that they were facing the greatest challenge yet. Kai took a deep breath and formulated a plan. He used the knowledge of the terrain, the patterns of the predators, and the ancient structures they had discovered. He would lead the creature into a trap, using both the environment and their wits. Humans could think ahead, plan, and act in ways no other species could. That was their advantage. They moved cautiously, staying low and using shadows for cover. Kai signaled Vero to mimic his movements. Together, they approached a narrow canyon with jagged rocks on both sides. Kai had noticed that the predator's size made it slow in tight spaces. He whispered to Vero, pointing to a cluster of rocks that could be used to block the creature if needed. Vero hummed softly, as if understanding. The predator appeared suddenly, its roar shaking the canyon walls. Kai felt the familiar surge of fear, but controlled it. Humans had the ability to focus in fear, to use it as energy rather than allowing it to freeze them. He led the creature toward the rocks, using quick, unexpected movements. Vero helped by creating sounds that confused the predator, echoing off the walls of the canyon. The predator swung its claws, but Kai and Vero stayed just out of reach. Moving with precision and timing, Kai spotted an opening. He darted toward a narrow path while the predator struggled to follow. He grabbed a large rock and used it to trigger a small landslide. The rocks tumbled down, blocking part of the canyon and forcing the predator to stop. It roared in frustration, unable to continue its pursuit. Kai and Vero used the moment to move quickly to safety. They had survived the greatest threat so far, not by strength alone, but by intelligence and teamwork. Exhausted but exhilarated, Kai looked at the valley below. The ancient structures glowed softly in the morning light. He realized that humans had a gift no other species could match: the ability to face danger, to learn from it, and to use every resource available. The planet was dangerous, unpredictable, and full of challenges, but humans could survive because of courage, creativity, and resilience. Kai and Vero explored the area near the structures, discovering more devices and tools left by the ancient civilization. Some could provide light, others could help them move safely through difficult terrain. Kai felt a deep sense of hope. Humans had the ability to understand, adapt, and innovate. That was why they survived, why they thrived where others could not. As the day passed, Kai built a small shelter near the ancient buildings. He arranged stones and plants to create a safe place to rest. Vero watched and imitated some of his actions, learning quickly. Kai realized that humans had another gift: the ability to teach and share knowledge. Together, they had created safety, learned from the environment, and prepared for the challenges ahead. That evening, Kai watched the sun set behind the jagged mountains. The sky was filled with unfamiliar stars, glowing softly over the valley. He thought about the days they had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty. The first tears of survival had come with fear, but now those tears were replaced with determination and hope. Humans could face impossible odds, learn from them, and overcome them. That was what made them special. Kai placed a small mark on a stone, a symbol of resilience and hope. Vero looked at it, humming softly. Kai smiled. They had survived predators, storms, and the unknown. They had discovered the remnants of an ancient civilization and used its tools to their advantage. Fear was still present, but it no longer controlled them. Humans had proven that courage, intelligence, and empathy were more powerful than any predator. As night fell, Kai and Vero rested together, safe for now. Kai looked up at the stars and felt a deep sense of pride. Survival was not just about avoiding danger. It was about learning, adapting, and showing courage in the face of fear. Humans could do what no other species could. They could survive, thrive, and turn fear into strength. The valley was quiet, and the strange plants glowed softly in the darkness. Kai knew the challenges of the planet were not over, but he also knew that humans had a power that would carry them through. They could face the unknown, protect those they cared for, and grow stronger every day. The first tears of survival had passed. Now, the dawn of courage had arrived. Kai and Vero would face the future together, ready to survive and thrive in the alien world.